Hello and welcome to the first full-length video for Wolf's Antique Photography. Excuse the cat playing in the bushes there. Today we're going to be going over a process known as tintype photography, otherwise known as wet plate collodion. One of the videos that got really popular over the shorts that I posted was a tintype I took of our dog Fiddlesticks. A lot of people asked in the comments on that video and on a couple other ones about the wet plate process. I'm very new to this. I've been doing it for a few weeks now. I've been really interested in it for a few years, but practically doing it only a few weeks. So my information might be slightly askew to reality, and for that I apologize in advance. I will do my best to get information correct and not be distracted by our cat, which is sitting right here. He just fell off the bricks. Our main subject is going to be just a drill I have. I feel like it'd be a cool close-up picture. And I'm hoping that we can get this correct on the first try, although the weather's being super inconsistent, so I don't really have high hopes. Alright, so some history. So obviously people know at least the general idea of photography. You had longer exposures, people had to sit still for a very long time, and that's mostly related to daguerreotypes, or pronounced somewhere around there. I'll have the word on the screen. Those ones actually you didn't have to sit down for a super long time. I mean, in bright conditions, the exposure would be somewhere around 40 seconds from what I've read. Still quite a while, but I did a 1:30 exposure, and that's still not terrible to do. So, daguerreotypes, you had longer exposure and everything. With tintypes, with ferrotypes, which was, the wet plate is actually wet with their chemicals, you're looking at, sometimes 1 second to 8 seconds, if not 15 or so. Now, the way that this works is interesting. So silver nitrate is basically the light-sensitive chemical. If you get silver nitrate on you at all, which I do not recommend, it makes your skin a little bit inky black, you'll notice that it turns black when it comes in contact with the sun, at least generally speaking. I've noticed that sometimes it can do that by itself. But UVs in general, or light in general, will turn it black. This is because it's light sensitive. So how do you turn that into a picture? Well, you get this thing called collodion. This is a ether alcohol mixture with nitrocellulose in it that basically acts as sort of like a liquid adhesive. Now, these were used as liquid bandages for a time, but if you add certain salts within them, and depending on the collodion you get, depends on the type of salts you get, it can bond to the silver crystals and turn them into something that can suspend them to get an image on the plate. I by no means am a chemist, and I don't necessarily know how all the science behind it works. There's a lot of other people out there that are way smarter than me and can describe it much better. So I'm just kind of giving you a general Cliff Notes version. That's effectively how it works. Now, there are limitations. This form of photography is really sensitive to blue light and UV light specifically. So if you are inside your house with just a normal light, the amount of UVs coming from that are almost none. So you're going to have a very long exposure time that might not work at all, which is why, generally speaking, if you have an indoor studio taking a tintype, you have very, very, very bright strobe lights. So we're outside right now. It's a little bit overcast. We don't have super bright sun, but that should make it a little bit easier to get a nice image out of it. When you're dealing with bright sun, sometimes you can end up in a situation where the image doesn't turn out the way you want, no matter how hard you try. It's also nice and cool. We've been dealing with mid to high 90s recently, which makes it a lot more difficult to get the collodion to work right because of how volatile it is, and to get the silver nitrate to work properly in the developer and the fixer. It's very, very, very touchy when it comes to temperature, just like most analog imagery developers and such, and film as well. This stuff is very heat sensitive and very temperature reliant. And so when I was trying to do it earlier, I had to act quickly, a lot quicker than usual, because the collodion is going to dry quicker, the silver nitrate's going to act quicker, everything is going so much quicker to the point of absurdity. Today it's a lot calmer. I can take my time. The UVs aren't super bright. I'm not uncomfortable wearing my necessary apron to protect my clothes and some of my skin from the chemicals, and it's not going to be difficult for me to take on and off gloves for my hand protection, or will it be difficult to keep safety glasses on to protect my eyes. With all of that said, preempting the upcoming picture, which is coming up very soon, let me go over some of the supplies and sort of what all this looks like. This is my dark box. So this blanket is light tight, and it can be dropped down. This screen back here is for the red safety light to come in from natural light. That allows me to watch the development process and to be able to do things in a way that the plate won't react to, because these plates are not red light sensitive, which really helps a lot for this. This is my developer cup. So I fill this with developer, which is right here. It's an iron copper developer. I fill it with this, and I'm able to basically hold the plate after I get the image exposed and dump it on over my developer tray here. I will then hold it for about 20 seconds until the image comes up to a negative that seems good. And then I will rinse it off with this, which will be filled with water. Great, I dropped it. And I will just rinse off the plate for about another 20 or so seconds until that oily copper developer is off. I can then take it out of the dark box in normal light because it will no longer react to light. I mean, technically, if I brought it out into the light and I put it back under the developer, it would just be completely burnt. There would be nothing left of the image. But because I won't develop it any further, it doesn't matter. I can bring it out into the sunlight and I'll bring it over to the fixer. My fixer tub is here, and I've been starting to do a different process. Usually I'd fill this up with fixer and then put it in the fixer directly and shake it around. What I've been doing now is I've been putting the plate in. There's a truck. I've been putting the plate in and then putting the fixer on top. So that is effectively what we have. Once everything's done, I've put it on the drying rack and we'll be good to go. Also, this is my silver nitrate box. This has the light sensitive material in it. I can actually put it in the box without this curtain being down because it doesn't become light sensitive until it's been in there for a little tiny bit to allow the silver crystals to get onto the plate. So I can actually put that in there under full daylight. And the box itself is light type, so we're all good there. With all that out of the way, I'll go ahead and get on to walking through making the image. When you take tintype photography, it is a lot different than typical analog photography. There's a lot of things that could go wrong that could damage your skin and hurt your health. That is why it's extremely important to wear gloves, work in a well-ventilated area, and wear safety glasses. An apron is also recommended, one that's chemical-proof, as that'll keep your clothes and your main torso and leg skin safe. So with the safety brief out of the way, we can get on to making the plate light sensitive. Now I have my bottle of collodion here that's still cool. It's kind of warming up a little bit. Not a big deal. You want to keep the collodion colder. You can do this with an ice, with a cooler with ice in it, or you can keep your collodion bottle in the fridge. It's actually important to store your collodion in the fridge when you're not using it, as collodion deteriorates really quickly, and once it deteriorates, it starts to lose its ability to get the plate light sensitive. So that means longer salt baths, and that means lower sensitivity to light, which means longer exposure times and less repeatability. So things become less consistent. With fresher collodion like what I have, that is colder and not necessarily brought up to a warmer temperature, you get easier results, and you get results that look better on the plate, and the plate doesn't want to flake off as quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the plate. I'm going to hopefully try to describe what I'm doing well. So let's get started with that, and let's go. Alright, so this is your plate of aluminum. This is what the picture is going to go on. It has a black enamel on it that'll help you see the image better, because all the dark areas that aren't exposed to light or don't have as good exposure don't react with the silver crystals. So it'll just be invisible. So you have the black there to bring out the shadows and to bring out the darker spots. Whereas everything that's exposed to light will be a white or gray color, hence black and white. So these are coated in film by the manufacturer that makes them. This is from UV Photographics, for those of you interested in starting out. So I'm going to go ahead and peel off this film here. So once you have the film, you can take it off. And there you go. You want to be very careful, and you don't want it to go over itself, otherwise you'll create ridges. And you just pour the excess back into the bottle. And you give it a shake here to keep any ridges from forming. And while the plate is drying, I'll close up the collodion bottle to stop the evaporation of ether and alcohol. Before this dries and becomes unusable, I'll put it in the silver nitrate bath bomb. It fits nicely on this right here, and just goes right on in. Do it slowly to prevent bubbling due to turbulence. And I'll lock it up so that there's no way for it to pop open. And now we wait 3 minutes. During the time it takes for the plate to get light sensitive, you can focus your camera, you can get everything set up for it. I've already done that, so I don't need to. What I will spend this time doing is prepping my workspace, something I should have done earlier, but that's okay. So this is all set for the picture. Okay, so my hope is that having the camera in here doesn't let in too much light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it upside down here. I'm going to rinse off, I'm going to dry off the excess silver to keep from it affecting the image, and put it in the plate holder, which I'm sure you can just barely see. I'm going to close it up, and we're ready for the image. Okay, so here's my camera and the subject. So the lens is already closed, and I know I'm going to need about a 1.5 second exposure time. So I've got the lens charged. Some don't need this, some just have a lens cover, and then you can't cover it back up. So it's in there. I remove the cover, and I'll go ahead and count it off. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And there we go. There's our exposure. Now this is the first shot for today, and with the lack of UVs, I don't know how this image is going to turn out. So let's actually find out. I want to make sure that this image turns out, and with the experience of putting it in the tray, I'm not going to have the camera in the dark box with me right now. I need to get a smaller tripod for that, so hopefully in a future video you'll see it properly with the developer. Plus, with the red light system I have currently, you can't really see it that well anyway. So I'm going to set a timer for 20 seconds while I'm in there, and I'll come out to show you guys the negative once it's developed, and then we can pour the fixer on. And that's honestly the most exciting part. The development part happens under red light and isn't super exciting at all. So I'm going to restart this, and you guys will be able to at least see in real time the development process. Okay, there's the negative right there. I think that looks pretty good. All right, so this is going to be the fixing process. Let me go ahead and get it in the most interesting way to do this. This process here will basically turn this image into a positive. So let's go ahead and showcase how that works. Go ahead and pour the fixer down here, and then we'll go ahead, and there you go. This right here is the magical part. You can see we now have a positive image. And I'll leave it in here for just a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that. And there's your tintype. So now all we have to do is basically rinse this off, put it in a rinse bath, let it dry, and then varnish it, which I won't be showing in this video because it's kind of redundant. But yeah, that's making a tintype. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video on basically how this process works, because this is all the chemical stuff right here. After that, varnishing is just using shellac on a heated plate and then letting it dry. This is the really fun part that's not at all tedious, and honestly the part that I enjoy the most. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I did making it. And there's a lot more antique photography stuff coming soon, including a lot of film subjects to cover. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you with more antique photography very soon.